This review contains major spoilers for Blue Velvet and very minor spoilers for Twin Peaks. Here, I'd usually recommend you go watch it, but this movie isn't exactly made with a widespread appeal in mind, so I'd limit its recommendation to fans of genuinely unsettling horror media and otherwise viewers familiar with Lynch's less lighthearted work, like Twin Peaks' Fire Walk with Me. Okay, so you know how the last review was on a video game? Fuck that, we're doing a movie now. My experience with David Lynch as a filmmaker was largely limited to Twin Peaks, aka my all-time favorite TV show, but in the wake of his death last month, I felt driven to explore what he was initially famous for, his movies, and I decided to start with Blue Velvet, as it starred two of Lynch's most iconic regulars, Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern, and I'd heard it mentioned tangentially by a lot of Twin Peaks fans. So, with that preamble out of the way, where do I even begin? Blue Velvet has been haunting me ever since I watched it. I spent so much of my free time feverishly trying to piece together exactly what I just watched, so apologies if this video comes off a bit more stream of consciousness than an organized review. I just can't stop thinking about this movie. The unsettling lighting, the prominence of primary colors, the uncomfortable romances, or the completely over-the-top performance by Dennis Hopper, which honestly makes Frank more terrifying.
Raymond, where's the fucking beer, man?
It's right here, Frank. You want me to pour it?
No, I want you to fuck it. Shit, yes, pour the fucking beer. Get ready to fuck! You fuckers, fucker! You fucker!
In dreams, you're mine.
What I've mostly picked up on is a strong commentary about the idyllic surface of America and the ugliness that lies below it, which the opening makes quite clear. I think that's actually why I found this movie so terrifying. There's an evil rooted deeply in this generic community of Lumberton, USA, and that causes a strong feeling of helplessness in the early parts of Blue Velvet, because you can only barely grasp that said evil's present, much less who or what is causing it.
Anyway, I was at the hospital this morning, and coming home through the field behind our neighborhood, there behind Vista, I found an ear.
You did? A human ear?
Yeah, I thought I should bring it to you.
If that's right, let's take a look at it. Yes, that's a human ear, all right.
After Jeffrey finds a severed ear near his backyard, he can't help but to be curious about his origins, especially when the police fail to do much about it. That all changes when, not long into his investigation, a face for the evil shows up. Quite loudly.
Don't you fucking look at me! Don't fucking look at me!
I think what makes Frank so effective is that Jeffrey, this fully functional adult we follow, can't really do much about him, despite immediately learning all the answers to the mystery he's been following. This really brought to light for me what I believe Lynch was going for. People turning a blind eye to very evident injustices in order to keep the peace. In fact, there's a lot of irony present that that's largely what the peacekeepers, the police, do here. Consider how Frank is constantly screeching the most heinous things and hurting people very loudly and openly. Most of which taking place in an apartment building, and despite that, not only do we never see another tenant of those apartments, no one ever files a police report over the gunshots. I mean, silencers aren't that silent. Or all of the screaming. Even outside that, when Frank harasses and beats Jeffrey in front of many regular appearing people, they either do nothing or just follow Frank's orders. Tangentially, that made me recognize why people mention this movie so much when discussing Twin Peaks, especially Fire Walk with Me. It's the same underlying idea, people ignoring blatantly obvious transgressions to continue the illusion of tranquility, ignoring that evil just causes it to fester. It's why Laura Palmer wound up dead.
Wrapped in plastic.
Interestingly, Lynch seems to end the movie on a suspiciously sweet note, or return to the idyllic surface, with Dorothy, Sandy, and Jeffrey all happy, having moved on in the wake of Frank's death. However, there's clearly some form of evil still lurking in Lumberton, because the Robin still shows up with another one of the bugs, which alluded to the evil in the first place. And worse, this time Jeffrey chooses to ignore it. So, even with that somewhat satisfying reading of the movie I've crafted, there's still just so much about it that I just don't know. Like, this reading almost completely leaves Laura Dern's character, Sandy, in the dust. And strangely, that makes Blue Velvet even more alluring to me. Like, I almost want to rewatch it. Really rewatch it. Not just parse it for clips like I did for this video. But I know from my experience with Twin Peaks, especially The Return, that some of my questions may not have any concrete answers, no matter how hard I looked, even if I chose to look at Blue Velvet under a different lens than I did in this video, and that's almost magical in its own way. I haven't even talked about the actual visuals of this movie, just analyzed the story, because I'm not very good at all that. However, I can say without a doubt that this movie has absolutely stunning lighting. Just the equally creepy uses of light and darkness, or the clear color symbolism of red and blue lighting, clothing, rooms. I wish I knew where to begin with that. That's not to mention the absolutely excellent score by Angelo Badalamenti, the really catchy Blue Velvet song that Lynch makes liberal use of, or Julie Cruz's debut song, Mystery of Love, all of which clicking perfectly with the scenes they accompany. If you can't tell, I really loved Blue Velvet. I mean, rarely do I ever think about a movie this much after watching it, much less break it down and try to truly understand it the way I did Blue Velvet. Piecing together an analysis of this movie almost felt like a fight or flight response, and I just had to get this off my chest. Can't say I've ever had a movie follow me throughout my day as I psychotically jot down my thoughts about it to the poor friends I dragged along to watch the movie with me. So, in other words, David Lynch has struck again. If you haven't watched this movie and you're in the right headspace for it, I highly recommend Blue Velvet.
Used to been.
Be polite!
Warmer than May, her tender sighs. Love was ours. Our love I held tightly. Feeling the
Drink up.
rapture
Here's to your health. Ah, shit, let's drink to something else.
like the flame.
Let's drink to fuck. I'd say, here's to your fuck, Frank. If you like, Frank. Here's to your fuck. Cheers.
But in my heart there'll always be precious and warm a memory through the years.
Okay, and now for the possibly none of you who care. It's been almost a year since my last video. Why? That's something I've been asking myself a lot when I've been playing some truly excellent games, watching some absolutely stellar movies, and binging a few incredible TV shows, but my experience after watching Blue Velvet cleared that up for me. Even when I absolutely loved a piece of media, I don't necessarily have a full video essay worth of opinions on why I loved it, especially when I'm not reviewing brand new media, because I feel like I'm not bringing much to the conversation about that media. Like, oh my gosh, I love Silent Hill 2 Remake. I love The Last of Us Part 2. But I don't really have an original opinion as to why, because so many people have already said what I said about those excellently. Or in another instance, I recently loved Batman Arkham Knight to death, but all of my reasons are extraordinarily obvious. It's presented amazingly, it plays excellently, it's addictive, it's not afraid to get weird, and I couldn't think of any way to say that meaningfully. I think more than anything, Blue Velvet taught me how to say something about what I enjoyed, even if it's not covering the entire work. And so I hope to bring that mentality to future videos. So, in other words, I can't promise there'll be another video soon. Either way, I really enjoyed trying to piece this movie together, and I hope you enjoyed the summary of my thoughts. This movie, despite how maybe clearly I seem to have plotted it out is so much more than what I just mentioned, and a lot less coherent. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I can't promise that the next video or any videos after that will be about movies, like I did with Blue Velvet here, but who knows. Anyways, thank you for watching this video.